All right, fantastic. So thank you so much for joining me today, SD23. Today's focus is going to be an SD23 exclusive webinar on Intro to Portfolios with a bit of a focus on elementary school teachers, as there are some unique applications that we can apply that will make it helpful for you in your class. So my name is Meredith Sherman. I am the Customer Success Manager at FreshGrade. And so I build relationships with district leaders such as Jordan Klankner, and we work at implementing FreshGrade within your district. And ultimately, we want to make sure that teachers are feeling comfortable with the product and are aware of all the tools in the toolkit of FreshGrade, if you will, so that you can make learning visible to parents and students. So today's agenda, as Jordan did a great job of marketing, we are going to be doing sort of an elementary focus. A lot of the things apply, but there are a couple highlights that I really want to focus on that will help make your class structure a little bit easier for you. So today we're going to be taking the hour and a half to go over managed accounts and just some best practices that go with setting up the account, especially for those of you that are new to FreshGrade. We are then going to give you an overview of the digital portfolio and then also get into the gradebook feature as well. So just a disclaimer for everybody here, this will have more of a demo walkthrough feel than actual training. We will be following up obviously with the on-sites on October the 21st. So certainly take today, provide any feedback to Jordan with what you would like to see in the on-site training. So again, this is a bit exploratory, get your feet wet, and hopefully have you start being able to start building those portfolios for your students. Another little thing that I will say as well, please write support@freshgrade.com if you are wanting any additional support on anything that you've seen today as well, and our support team will get back to you. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started here. Very first step, obviously, to get into FreshGrade is to log into FreshGrade. And so here, we'll go ahead and we'll go to www.freshgrade.com. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to go into the login tab over here. And you'll notice that obviously there is a drop down for parents, teachers, and students. So they are unique logins. In some cases, parents are also teachers, so they might have two accounts. Yeah, so just be aware that there are those discrete login flows. And so I'm going to go ahead and log in as a teacher. Perfect. And so this is where, as teachers at SD23, the login flow here being that you're going to go ahead and type in your SD23 email address. Mine is obviously going to be a little bit different just because I'm obviously not an SD23 employee. Perfect. And so this is then going to take me onto my login page. So for SD23, I don't believe you guys are using Clever, but this is where it'll take you to enter your school credentials. So if you have a password that you use to get onto your school laptop, computers, your email, this would be the password that you would use here as well. All right, excellent. So I am now into the dashboard view for FreshGrade. And so again, I am using the web portal here. I do want to encourage you to also check out the iPad, and depending on time and flow, I might pop that up at some point during today's webinar, but I will just take a moment to say that yes, the app of FreshGrade is available on smart devices, so iPad, tablets, and smartphones. So the one other thing that I would share with teachers as well, just orienting them to the FreshGrade platform. Teachers ask me, what's better? Should I use the web? Should I use the iPad? And my answer to teachers is this. I think of the web portal as your administrative powerhouse. Every single function that FreshGrade offers is accessible on the web portal, whereas when you move on to the iPad and smart devices, there are some limited features. There are some restricted features that aren't available. So what I suggest is do your administrative work, set up your accounts in your classes within the web portal so that when you log into the iPad or your smart device, those settings are already in place and you can go. So web portal is great for administration, every single tool you have, whereas the iPad is, once you've got your class set up, it's great for on-the-fly capturing evidence of learning. So, you know, again, some teachers get away with just web portal, others prefer to use their devices in the classroom. So it's really a matter of preference. Excellent. So moving on, so this is your dashboard. So here you'll see from examples, we've got notifications. So teachers will be notified when there is activity happening within one of their classes or their portfolios. We have provided a few convenient quick links for you here at the bottom. And then also, if you are using the gradebook feature, it does actually provide student progress as well, which is a pretty interesting tool just for teacher oversight, which is great. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and start off with setting up your accounts and just doing a quick overview there. So to see your classes, actually, there's a couple things we should do. Depending on what your enrollments are, if you go under account settings, you'll see your teacher info. One of the very first things that you probably want to do is go ahead and create an avatar for yourself. You might notice that, and I'm just going to scroll here for you a little bit. You might notice as I hover here over the icon, your avatar, if you haven't set a photo, will be blank. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and set yourself a quick little avatar here. So you can go ahead and click on this, and then you can preload any sort of photo that you would like. And so again, if you're not comfortable with putting an actual picture of yourself, you could just select an avatar of something that represents you, right? So I mean, again, if you were focusing on a particular subject, you could go ahead and put in music notes, for an example, if you're a music teacher, or again, just a silly cartoon character for sure. I've seen some classes do like Disney characters, for an example, which is kind of fun. So you would just go ahead and you would click on a JPEG or a GIF, and it would go ahead and load and populate there. Excellent. So just note that obviously your email address and your school will be locked down, just because that is one of the features of having a managed account. We pull your information from MyEdBC. What is shared with us from MyEdBC is what's pulled into the app, and so some things we cannot change. Now, one big thing for elementary school teachers is you might actually see that you've got multiple listings of classes. So what's happened is MyEdBC is actually shared, you know, for an example, grade 3 math, grade 3 literacy, grade 3 sciences, and it's broken it out into subjects, which is not very holistic of how a true elementary school structure is. So obviously, in most cases, we have one teacher that teaches all subjects. So in my demo account here, you'll notice that I do only have the one class. So if you are one of those teachers that do see multiple classes, what my recommendation to you is this. You will notice that you can edit a class. Oops, I'm getting too click happy here. So I'm just going to go back, account settings. And so right here, I'm going to go under edit class. And so this is where you can change the name of your class. So you might have some really weird naming conventions that don't mean much to you. But what my suggestion to you is this: if you are an elementary school teacher and you are teaching all subjects, pick a class that has all of your students enrolled and choose that class. You know, again, your grade 3 math class, for an example, choose that as your master class and name it as such. So an example of this would be, you could literally call it grade 3 class for 2016-2017. And again, it's simple as typing, right? So you could call it grade 3. Again, whatever you want to go ahead and call it. Another little trick is if you actually put a star or an asterisk or some sort of symbol.
So Tara, when you sign
Here we go. Just muting some attendees as they're coming in here. So we're going to go ahead, if you put a star or an asterisk beside the title, and then you go ahead and you click save, and save is, please note, way down at the bottom of the screen here. It will actually push that class to the top of your list. And so what I invite you to do is disregard all of those other classes that you're using. Just use the one class as your master class. You see them in your dashboard, but your parents and students will not. So you're going to use this one class as your master class. You're going to invite parents and students in from this one class, and you will teach all subjects. The other ones we will just leave blank on the back end and disregard that process. All right, I seem to have lost my chat panel here, so I just want to make sure that I'm not missing you guys on anything. Perfect. So I'm just reviewing some of this right here. Excellent. Yeah, so Jordan has just commented here that when it comes down to doing this, selecting your master class, he says the attendance block is a great way to go. And actually, what I'm going to do, Jordan, is this is a bit of an afterthought on my behalf here, but I'm going to see if I can make you an organizer, Jordan, because you might be able to speak and everyone else can see what you're typing as well. So sorry to put you on the spot, but this is a great opportunity to collaborate right here. Excellent. Perfect. Okay, so how is everybody feeling with that process? I just want to make sure that you're feeling clear on that idea of just because you have classes that have been pulled in from MyEdBC, you don't actually have to use them all. Okay, so it sounds like everybody is doing okay there.
Yay! Oh,
here we go. We got another jump in, so I just mute the mic there. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and continue. So you'll notice that while we are in this edit class view, there are a couple other features that I do want to call out. So again, with you being mostly elementary school, you will only have to do this for the one class that you've selected. So again, I've gone ahead and again, I'll just review that flow so you're comfortable. Up here on this dashboard, I go ahead into my account settings, and this is going to take me to all of the classes I have. So in my case, my demo class, I only have one, but you will have multiple, and each of them will have the ability to edit. So if you are in elementary school and you're just wanting to use the one class, this is the nice part is you've selected it. Hopefully you have renamed it into something that allows you to identify that class you're going to be using for collecting your portfolio data. And then we just want to go down through the rest of the list. I just want to kind of walk through and give you an orientation of this. So you will notice that being in BC, we are very lucky in that we have objectives. We have the objectives tab available for the ministry and for teachers in BC. We do have the objectives from 2006, but we have also imported the objectives from 2015. A little call out for this is we actually imported this last year when the objectives were being piloted at I believe it was grade 10 to grade 12 levels. And the ministry has since made a couple structural changes to where those objectives are living. So for an example, there's not an actual PE objective tab. It's under, I believe, health and lifestyle tab, and you'll see the PE objectives in there. So we've had a couple people writing saying, oh, hey, you don't have the core competencies, for an example, listed. And that's just because they are in there, but they're not under their own unique tab. But I do promise you that whatever the ministry ruled last year, those are the objectives. You may choose to not even use the 2006 or the Canadian standards. So again, I would say make it easy for yourself and just select the most recent curriculum. Another little call out as we scroll down here is the grades and subjects. So my class is set up for a grade 6 class that is again pulled in through MyEdBC and the subjects that I teach as well. So in a case of elementary school, I invite you to go ahead and take a look and drill down what subjects there are. But with elementary, you're usually covering most, if not all of these subjects, but you can actually control which objectives are pulled through. And when I keep referring to these objectives, I'll be coming back to that when we get into the grade book. So when we're setting up activities and you want to map curricular objectives or competencies, this is where that menu, if you will, comes through. And so again, we are looking at revamping objectives a little bit as of right now. We feel it's a little bit restrictive. So again, what MyEdBC shares with us is what is reflected. So, for an example, even if you are teaching a grade 6 class, you might want to support your students by preloading their learning. So maybe giving them an objective from grade 5, just because they struggled last year, to then preload them and bring them up to that level that they are confident enough to do a grade 6 outcome. So right now it's a bit restrictive, but we are looking at improving that and providing more flexibility for teachers. Now, with that being said, if you are a grade 5-6 split class, for an example, you should see both grades 5 and 6. And that is, again, pulled through MyEd. If you do not see that reflected, that is something that we encourage you to rate support at freshgrade.com, and we'll continue to look into that for you. Okay, so I'm just going to jump back to my chat panel here really quickly just to see if we have any questions. Okay, there's a couple here. Okay, so Nicole, for an example, you just gave me some feedback saying that yours is teaching kindergarten when you're actually teaching grade 2. So no, you can't change that right now. You'll have to go through support@freshgrade.com and we'll get that fixed so that those objectives show through a little bit better. Okay. All right, excellent. So moving down the list, assessment tools. Now, again, when you go ahead and you log into your FreshGrade account for the first time, you will see that you've got some default assessment tools. And so those guys, I'm actually getting some feedback that you're not able to see my cursor. So let's just see what happens if I do an arrow, if that's going to work for you. It doesn't look like it's changed much for me. But maybe just give me some more feedback on that. I'll just make sure that I'm trying to give some cues more so on what I'm clicking here for you guys. So under the assessment tools, you'll notice that there is a default, and those are automatically put in for you. And so some of them are more conducive to higher grade levels, obviously high school where letter grade or percentage is required. But obviously for elementary school, we're doing more of the mastery scale. So, are they meeting expectations? Are they approaching? Are they not yet meeting? Are they exceeding? So again, those are kind of the scales that we've put into place. Now, if you don't like those tools, certainly don't use them. You don't have to use them, and you can also create your own new tools. I believe you're limited to 10 tools in your toolkit at a time. I'm not going to spend any time today going through this, as this is a bit more of a kind of training and in-depth piece, but I do just want to highlight that when we do get into the gradebook, if you aren't seeing the learning outcomes or the assessment tool that you're wanting to use, this is where you go back to get it. Is again under the account settings tab up here under Nancy Brown, and then over here into the assessment tools. Okay. So then I'm scrolling down to categories. Now again, for elementary school level, you'll notice here that this is a weighting scale. So again, this is to provide an actual letter grade or a score to a student, and it breaks down the weighting, right? So projects, quizzes, assignments, and tests. And so in the case with a new account for managed users such as yourself in SD23, you won't have any categories set up. And quite often what we see is elementary school districts, they don't use the category at all just because it has a weighting feature to it. Whereas again, at elementary level, we do look at more of a mastery scale and completion scale. So just know that it's there, but if you don't have anything populated, you certainly have the ability to by adding a new category. Okay, so I'm scrolling down. We're almost at the bottom of the account settings tab here, everybody. So I just wanted to provide a nice high-level overview so you are aware that these tools are available. The final piece, which is really important, is class sharing. And so this comes down to if you have a learning assistant assigned to a student in your class, or maybe you are even sharing your team teaching, and maybe your collaborator actually doesn't have the class showing up in FreshGrade. That's again because MyEdBC, what they share, there's a little bit of a strange tech backend where our app can only recognize one teacher. But that's not to say that it can't be remedied. So to do this, you're going to go ahead into the class that you want to share, and you're going to go ahead and click Invite Colleague. Now, again, because SD23 is a managed account, the only email domain name that this will recognize for you guys is teachername@sd23.bc.ca. And that is just, again, a fail-safe to just lock down the students' accounts and make sure this is private. We don't want anyone that is not an SD23 employee to be able to access the student data and manipulate grades and photos and post on behalf of the teacher. So if you're trying to invite anyone that does not have an sd23.bc.ca email address, you need to either go to an administrator to get them one, because they should have one if they are an employee of SD23, or they probably shouldn't be invited. So the interesting thing about this app is if you do send it to somebody that does not have an SD23 email address, it will act like it sent an invite, but it just will never be received. So again, just a really, really big call out there. Okay, and again, I've tried to break it. I've tried to see how many people I can actually have sharing a class, and I've had up to 4 people at one point in my demo account, and it didn't seem to restrict me. So, let me know if you're able to max that out. I would be kind of curious to know. Okay, so that is the account settings tab. And again, how do we get to this menu? It's just at the top here under your name. And so you go under account settings. And then you select the class you want to do your settings for. And again, with elementary school, we talked about selecting a class out of all of the classes that you have pulled through MyEd. You go into the class and go edit class. And this is where all of those functions are. All right. Excellent. So I'm just going to go back to my chat panel really quickly just to check and see if there's anything I can kind of circle around here for answers for you guys. Great, Jordan. Thank you so much for manning the chat. That's fantastic. It looks like you're doing that pretty good. I'm just going to play around here and see if I can get something else to work for you guys. Pointer tool. How is that? Is that showing anything for you guys? I apologize. I don't know why it's not coming through. No way. Okay. Spotlight. What if I click? Anything for you guys yet? I'm just toggling through all my pen cursor tools options right now. Some people are saying they can see it. Some people are saying no. So again, I apologize. It doesn't seem to be consistent as to why it's not coming through. Okay, well, I will just keep moving here and see. Yeah, some people are saying they can see it, some people can't. So I apologize for those that can't. We'll have to keep moving here. So that is your managed account overview for the settings. Now what I want to do is I just want to hop back really quickly and I want to show you your portfolios, which also dovetails into inviting your parents and students into the class. So I'm going to hop back into my teacher portal here. And I'm going to actually access my students through the portfolio tab. And so again, if you have multiple classes, you'll select it, right? So right now I'm in language arts. And so that's what's going to be populated up here. If you have multiple classes, just be aware sometimes some teachers get hung up. They're like, oh, I'm in the wrong class or my class list isn't right. And it's just they haven't selected the correct class. For elementary school, I don't think that'll be so much of an issue, but just as an additional little heads up that we've seen from support from teachers. So I've just gone ahead and I've clicked on the portfolio tab, and here is my class list. And this should be very similar to what you teachers are seeing on your end with your class list, except for the exception being if you haven't invited or taken action on your students yet to invite them into the portfolio, you'll notice here that Jacob Abbott has a username as well as Amelia, as well as Willie. Whereas if I scroll slightly down further, we just see the student name with the grade that they're enrolled in. And so this is just demoing really quickly for you that once a student is invited into their portfolio and connected, this is the view that you will have. Whereas right now, if you have not taken action on your students, you will see that they just have their grade. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you right now how to invite students and parents in. And so you can access this menu in a couple of places, but the way that I'm going to do it is I'm actually going to just click on Susie's name, and this is going to populate the portfolio. Now you'll notice I do have some stuff in here already, but for those of you that are new to FreshGrade, your portfolio will be blank. You haven't populated any evidence of learning yet, but you've got a full year to do so. So the very first thing you'll notice is parental consent is required. So what we have to do is we've got to get this set up so that your students can start engaging with their portfolios as well. So we're going to go into the Manage Parents tab. And this is where it's going to pull up the student profile. It's also going to pull up any parents that are attached to the student through MyEd BC. So again, if you are missing parent information here, that means that we need to go back to your school administrators to make sure that that data is updated to MyEd BC. SD23 shares a new upload with us, I believe, on a daily basis. So usually it just takes about 24 hours for that new data to be pulled through, just to kind of give you some insight there. And so in this case, we've got Susie, and Maya BC has pulled in Ashley and James Foster, and they've populated the email address for you already, which is fantastic. And then we also have down here the student access bar. I'm going to take a quick note just to share this as well. There's no reason why you need to invite your parents or your students into the portfolio right away. We are all learners, and this is a new thing for many of you. And to pull back the veil in the classroom and to invite parents and students into the classroom, it can be an intimidating thing. And so that's the one thing that I do want to share is take your time, be kind to yourself, and learn. And don't open up the portfolio right away. I have some schools that are brand new to FreshGrade where their pilot teachers or their teachers new to FreshGrade for the school year. They will start in October with FreshGrade, and then they will take October and November to populate the student portfolios, create those evidence of learning, post things, do assessments, but it's closed. They haven't invited the parents or the students in so that it's a safe place to play, so that, if you accidentally post something and you're not sure how to delete it right away, you have that opportunity to get comfortable with the app first. Another answer to that is if you choose not to say open up the portfolio or invite parents or students in until you're ready, just know that anything that you created between now and when you invite that parent or student in, they'll be able to go back and see everything. So it's not a time gate as if once they're invited, they can only see uploads going forward. They will be able to see everything. So it's kind of like a neat little present when they finally do get to open up their FreshGrade accounts. So I will just, again, as I said, I will just call that out really quickly for just comfort levels in learning. Okay, so for those of you that are at really, really young levels, like kindergarten, for an example, maybe you're not even going to go through this step with inviting your students in. Maybe you don't have the reality of being able to manage devices in your classroom. Maybe parents aren't comfortable with that yet. But as we do start to get into upper levels, I do encourage that students be accountable for their own learning and be responsible for uploading their own posts as well. So once you're kind of at that threshold of where you're feeling comfortable with giving students portfolio access and allowing them to upload on their behalf, and thereby also taking a little bit of pressure off teachers to be uploading all the evidence of learning, which is always nice. This is the process that we're going to go ahead and do. So right down here, I believe for SD23, we went ahead and already ticked this box. So I have permission to allow the student to access FreshGrade. So I'm going to go ahead and tick this box. And so you'll notice here the status has changed to pending. We need to invite the student to the portfolio. So right under here, under the Invite tab, I'm going to click Invite, and it's going to generate a username for me, okay? And so what we need to do here is we need to then go ahead and take that username, and we're going to punch it into the website. Okay. And so actually, you know what, in this case, Susie, I did already invite. So I'm actually going to pick a new student here. Just again, being a demo account, I just want to make sure that you guys get the full experience from start to finish. So I'm going to go into portfolios, and I'm going to scroll down, and I'm actually going to do Missy because I believe I've never invited her. So it'll be like a fresh login here. So exact same thing. You'll see we've got parents populated. We've got Missy's name here. And so I have permission, and I'm going to click invite. And so for the very first time, if we're doing this for the very, very first time, it should generate an access code. Okay, so I'm just going to review that process because I did jump on you guys a little bit. I went under the portfolio tab. I selected a student. I then clicked manage parents, which brought me to this tab. I am wanting to invite Missy in, so I scrolled down and I went ahead and said give portfolio access, and this is where it generates a code. Now the really cool thing about this is you can either choose to print the codes individually, or you can actually do it by class. Once you've invited students in, you can invite them by class. So I'm just gonna, you'll see here that it generates a nice little PDF with a code. It is quite child friendly in the language that we've used, but of course we do encourage that a parent, guardian, or teacher helps through this process. We do see some schools where the teachers will actually do this with each student, and they'll go ahead and go through that process, or they will send this access code home with their parent consent forms and just invite the parents to go ahead and do this setup. So there's a couple ways we've seen it done for sure. But there it is. So we now have an access code, okay? So I'm just gonna copy that guy. So I've just copied that access code. And I am now going to go into the student account here. So literally what we do is we go to freshgrade.com. So now I'm being Missy right now, pretending to create my account. I'm going to go to the login, or again, with mom and dad or with a teacher, and I'm going to go under the student tab. And then that access code that they've provided, you can either refer to the sheet and type it out, or I'm going to go ahead and press paste, and we're going to go view portfolio. Awesome. And so now Missy, she's got access into her portfolio. Now I'm just going to show you guys one little thing here quickly. Just going to back into, I'm now in the teacher account again here. I hope you're appreciating sort of the parent, teacher, and student views, just to kind of give you a little more of an orientation of what this experience looks like. So right here, you'll notice that it says pending, the portfolio is not connected, even though Missy does have access. So this is the final piece here, is that Missy, or the parents or the teacher, must click this section here. So it's right under the menu tab, and this is Missy's portfolio, which will be empty at the beginning of the year, obviously. And we go, create an account. And here's where it will generate. Now, again, you guys, I believe, are managed SSO, so this flow will be a little bit different. We will have created the passwords for her, but just make sure that that final piece that the account is created. So in this flow with the password, I'm just going to go ahead and do FreshGrade 2016. FreshGrade 2016. Now, again, this is managed by your district, though. So at least Jordan, I think that I can confirm that we have SSO for students in your district. So I'm just going to check the chat panel here for feedback. Yeah, exactly. So Jordan says when they use the FreshGrade app, they're only going to use the access code for one time. Absolutely. So again, this is just the initial setup, and then after that, we're good to go. Perfect. And so now, just so that we can reconfirm, I'm going to refresh the teacher page, and we should now see that Missy is connected. And bear with me, this is slow for the app just because I am on my personal Wi-Fi at home, and I am also broadcasting video and audio to all you fine folks in SD23. So this is a little bit slower than what you can expect to see from the app. Perfect. So there we can see that Missy has been connected, which is fantastic. So now what this means is she's able to go ahead and log in using her single sign-on with the district. She can also download the app on her iPad, and so that whenever a teacher posts anything, she'll get a ping, a push notification to her phone to let her know that there's action waiting for her on her portfolio. Okay, so just check in the chat bar here really quickly just to make sure that my pacing is okay for all of you with fresh eyes. And again, Jordan, thank you. You've just been manning some questions so I can focus on my lecture, which is great. Sue says all good, so that's fantastic. So I'll keep kind of referring back, but just want to make sure that you guys are feeling comfortable with this process. And again, keep in mind, you're only having to do this once a year. So once this is set up, you're good to go. As an additional call out, for whatever reason, you can revoke access from the student's portfolio. If a student ever ends up being unenrolled in your class, that's the nice thing about the managed piece, is that if MyEd all of a sudden has a change in enrollment, you'll just see your student be unenrolled from your class. But there isn't a revoke access button. Okay, so the final piece that I want to cover really quickly here before we move on to the digital portfolio and the grade book is the parent access piece. So right up here, we've got contacts, right? So we've got Lily and Ryan Hudson. So assumedly these are the parents of Missy. And so again, FreshGrade has pulled in all of that info for you. Okay. So again, you don't have to manually do that. So if you are ready to provide some visibility into the portfolio from parents, you actually have two options here. And I'm going to try to break it down for you as clear as I can here. The first option is to just send highlights to your parents. And so what that means is highlights is the fancy word we use at FreshGrade for emails. So basically you can choose to still just share emails, push a post. So say for an example, you took a picture of Missy and she's collaborating with her peers, and it's just a really cool moment for those core competencies, and you just really want to call it out to mom and dad. That's where you would go ahead and post it, and you'll get a push notification just saying, hey, did you want to share this as a highlight as well? And that's when you can go ahead and say yes, and then mom and dad will get that highlight to their inbox. And so that still provides a certain level of control as to what you are actually putting out there to mom and dad or guardian. But the other thing is giving full portfolio access, as you would see with your students. So this is where mom and dad will have their own account created within FreshGrade. They can log into the portfolio and view their child's account, and they can also comment on any of the posts that are happening. So it's sort of three tiers. There's one, no sharing of anything within the portfolio. The second tier is where you're just sharing email highlights. So again, we have their email populated in here. You can choose every time you post something, it'll ask, do you want to share a highlight as well? And you can either say yes or no, or you can go the full meal deal and open up the portfolio to your parents, and they'll see every action and be able to engage and reinforce and help partner you as the learning journey continues. So to begin this process, right here, even to give highlights, we have to click the Give Portfolio Access button. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to be Nancy Brown here, and I'm going to decide to invite Lily. And so I clicked up here, it kind of jumped on us. So here, I'm just going to zoom out so you have a bit more of a high level view. Okay. So I went ahead and I clicked Lily, Give Portfolio Access, which then pulled her down under the Parent Access tab. And so here, it says Lily Hudson, and it has her email address. And so I'm going to go ahead and click Save. Okay, and do you notice here how it says Highlights Only? I'm just going to scroll down here. Highlights Only at the bottom. So this is now when you go to post, it's going to say, would you like to share this as a highlight? So right now, Lily, she doesn't actually have portfolio access. To have the true portfolio access, you need to click Invite. And so now, sorry, I've just got my GoToMeeting panel over here. I'm kind of trying to move it away, even though I know you guys can't see it on your end. So now, invite sent on October 5th. So now we can see that they've accepted an invite, and what they will get in their inbox is something like this. And so I've got this pulled for you guys just as an example so you can see what this looks like. So welcome to FreshGrade. And so if your teacher or if your parent is brand new to FreshGrade, has never used it before, there is the create account feature. And again, parents manage their own accounts. That has nothing to do with our integration at all. So they have to come up with their own username and password. There's a little bit of a walkthrough on how this works, right? So it sort of shares what FreshGrade is about. And then from there, they follow the links, and it's a pretty simple process to get them connected. And so, yeah, that's basically the process from the teacher perspective. And I hope that sort of helps you guys have some insight into what the student and parent experience would be as well. An additional call out before I move off of this page here, though, is that you might notice, I'm just going to zoom out here a little bit. You might notice that we also have an add parent feature right here. So if you click this, you can actually invite other people that are not included in MyEdBC into this. And again, you'll notice that they don't have to have an SD23 email address, right? These are obviously parents and relatives Sometimes we see even older siblings being invited in as quote unquote a parent to collaborate and comment and support their younger brothers and sisters. This is a fantastic tool as well for grandmas and grandpas and aunts and uncles and just even people that are further away. This provides a little bit more connection. So again, that feature is there. The only call out that I would have is, of course, ensure before adding anybody to your student's account as a parent that you have consent to do so, and then it does align with your district policies. Okay, and so you'll notice just up here as well in the web portal a nice little handy tool. So instead of having to click portfolio and then scroll to the next student, you can just toggle jog wheel, right? So that's meant to be a little bit easier. At this time, we have no way to batch invite students in. That is feedback we have received, and we will definitely be looking at doing that in the future. But as of right now, you do have to manually go in and invite each student in. But there is also a print all access code and print class list feature as well. So once you've gone ahead and invited all of your students in, and in this case, I have not, you'll notice none of them have access codes under their name, you can actually get a PDF of all of your students and print them all off at once you've given them their access code. So again, anything we can do to try to make it a little bit quicker for you guys, we are looking to make those improvements, and please do highlight those opportunities for us so that we can continue to improve. All right, excellent. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump back to the chat panel here really quickly just to make sure that everyone's doing okay and there's no outstanding questions. Perfect. Yes. And again, Jordan has said that, yes, we are recording this webinar, and so that you can certainly review. As I said, we are having to get through a fair amount of content here, but if there's anything that you would like to see addressed more in depth for the on-site PD, please let Jordan know. And again, I'll be there to kind of walk you through and show you where the buttons are and have it be more of an interactive experience. Sue, there are some resources. Definitely write support at freshgrade.com, and they will provide you with some getting started tips and advice. And I believe you do have some documentation as well, and they can help you. Absolutely. Okay, excellent. So, you're most welcome, Sue. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump back to the web portal here, and I'm just going to demonstrate really quickly the portfolio view. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to assume that you're ready to collect learning. So we've gone ahead and set up your classes the way that you would like. Again, the one thing that I would say is as we get into the grade book, when you start to look at creating your assessment tools, that once you have your grades and your grade book going, once you start creating and using your assessment tools, make sure that again, in your account settings here, under edit class, your assessment tools, just under here when it loads, you need to make sure that these are set up in a way that you like them from the beginning of the year, just because once you apply an assessment tool to an activity, you cannot edit it. So again, just make sure that those scales are looking good, play around with them. Again, talk to a colleague, reach out to support if you're needing some help with getting that set up. But that's just a little call out that I would say that everything's pretty flexible within FreshGrade, but this is one where if you're using that assessment tool and then you want to change it, you will have to go back and reassess those assignments. So just an important little call out for you guys there. Okay, so portfolios. So going into the portfolio view here, you'll see again, we've got our class for my language arts class. And so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to click on Jacob here. And so this is a portfolio that obviously has some evidence of learning. Just a quick overview, obviously we have Jacob and his username, his grade, parent info. So right here, what this is showing is you start to orient and get familiar with what these icons mean. The tick beside Meredith Abbott means that Meredith has actually accepted the invite to the portfolio and she has linked herself to it. So what Meredith Abbott sees is this. And so this is the parent tab. So if you guys haven't figured out my process here, and this is something you guys would never do, but I just want to give you insight into how this works. This is the teacher tab. This is the student tab, and then this is the parent tab, and they're all tied to Jacob Abbott, my star student. So this is again Meredith Abbott's view, and so this is the portfolio here. And then same thing with Jacob. Once Jacob has connected, and here, I'll show you guys what this flow looks like. I've got Jacob already saved on here for ease of use. And the login flow will be slightly different for you guys. Here's Jacob's portfolio. And so you'll notice that the content, if I jump between, is consistent. So again, jumping onto the parent tab, the parent sees the same thing. And then again, jumping to teacher, the teacher view sees the same content as well. Okay, so just to give you a good overview there. So here, you'll notice that we have an add to portfolio feature right at the very top. And so this is pretty basic. So this is where you have the ability to upload files. You can upload photos, you can upload PDFs, you can upload audio, video, whatever it is that you have collected and you want to share. Now, this is where, if you have a device, a smart device, this is where I would suggest when it comes to actually uploading to the portfolio, that you use an iPad or a smart device because it removes a step. So essentially, if you're using the web portal, you would have had to, say for an example, video Jacob Abbott reading out loud, and then have to pull that video onto your computer and then have to post, which is an extra step, as opposed to with the iPad, you can be in the classroom, you can collect and upload on the fly, which is a little bit handier. But it really depends, again, what tools you have in your toolkit. So from here, we can go ahead and attach a document of whatever it is, again, a photo, maybe an example of student work. You can go ahead and you can leave an impression as well. Some teachers feel really strongly about not leaving impressions. Other teachers do feel strongly about leaving impressions. It's completely up to you whether you would like to use them. There is a posting date here, so you can manipulate this, and this will show you ultimately where it'll populate within the portfolio in a timeline. So you can post date them as well. You can leave a note. So again, here's a great example of Jacob Abbott collaborating with his peers. And then you could go ahead and do a video. And then you can go ahead and click save and it would post. So I'm going to, I'll just show you the iPad view really quickly on this. I don't want to spend too much time on it just because, there is a lot to go over, but I did want to share this with you guys really quickly. So I'm just going to pull up my iPad here. All right, let's see. Ta-ta, perfect. So unfortunately, I can't make it any larger than that, but I just want to show you how quick and easy it is to post a photo of something. So again, because I'm working from home, I don't have a lot of resources available to me, but you'll notice I also have all 3 apps loaded up on here. And so here's the portfolio view for Jacob. So I've got the whole class here. If I tick on Jacob up at the top, there's his portfolio. You'll notice at the bottom, instead of add to portfolio, at the very bottom there's a camera, there's a movie, there's audio, and then there's the pencil as well. And so camera is obviously to upload a photo, the video movie slat is for video, and then audio, and then comments. And so let's go. Let's try refreshing this guy. There we go, Jacob. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to click the photo option, take photo. And so this is, again, got to use our imagination here, but here's Sully. So here's Jacob. We can go ahead and just take that picture. Perfect. And then I'm going to go ahead and say use photo. And so this is where you could write a note. You select which student you want to apply to, right? So again, this could be your entire class if it was a field trip, which would be great because then when you tag the student, it will populate to their portfolio. Or if it is just for the one student, you can go ahead and do that. Select all, we'll select them all. Clear all, we'll obviously clear them all. So I'm just going to do this for Jacob. Go ahead and click done. And again, I could go ahead and write a note here, give some feedback on what I'm observing. And from there, I can go ahead and click save. Now, there is that share highlight feature I was talking about earlier, ladies and gentlemen. So ultimately, you can either choose to share as a highlight and it'll push an email. And actually, I'll show you what an email looks like in just a second. Or don't share the highlight because you know that your parents are completely connected. So I'm going to say no and then go ahead and click save. And so there it is. It's loaded up and away you go. So it's a lot quicker than, having to manage files from a web portal. So that would be my recommendation if you do have an iPad. I would use the iPad for posting on the fly. But anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and get out of my iPad here really quickly and go back to the tab here. And that is fantastic. So if I jump back and we refresh the page, we should now see that lovely picture of my mug in the office. Just give it a second to load here. Okay. And again, as I said, the app is behaving a little bit sluggish, but that is also because I am streaming audio and video to you fine people. So again, just as a little call out for you there. So there it is there. There's the app. And so if I go into Jacob and I refresh, and I'm actually going to, perfect. Give it an extra second here. Perfect. So then there we'll see the photo. There's Sully, and same thing, we could do that with the parents. So again, just a quick refresh is usually what's required to get that going. But you guys know how that flow goes, so I won't sit here and wait for that to refresh. I'll let that do that on the back end there. So that's a very basic kind of flow for portfolio posting. And so again, to add to portfolio, you can do it again on web portal. One call out that I didn't say is the keep private function, which is really, really handy. So what this does is this obviously keeps it private just to the teacher. Please note that anything that you mark private will be available to see by any colleagues that you have invited into the class. So again, as I talked about, if you have a learning assistant assigned to a student in your class, if you have a collaborator, a team teacher, or maybe even your administrator has asked to just be invited so they have visibility, keep in mind that those notes are there to keep private. This can be good for if you create an activity or an assignment that you're not quite ready to release yet. You can go ahead and post it and then tag it as private afterwards to just have it out of the eye and view of your parents and students until you're ready. Anecdotally, other places I've seen it be used definitely is for an example, behavioral issues. So say for an example, Jacob Abbott is typically a great student, but you've just noticed a couple little trends in his behavior the last little bit. So you've gone ahead and documented it, but you don't want to sound the alarm and let the parents know and the student know, and maybe you just want to save it for parent-teacher interview night. That is a really, really powerful tool that you can use. Okay, so I'm going to cancel out of this. And again, I'm just going to zoom out so you guys can kind of see what Jacob's portfolio looks like. And you can see the dating, and it's everything from assignments to evidence of learning, examples of student work. Again, as I said, with the portfolios, Jacob also has the ability to comment or upload on his portfolio. So again, I'm now on Jacob's view here as the student, and you'll notice he has the ability to comment on his work and then also upload. So Jacob can upload something. He can actually even add completely something new. So this is great for self-guided learning. So again, if the student has the ability to even reach out to their teacher and say, you know, hey, Miss Brown, look at this amazing river I came across camping this weekend. I'd be really interested in learning more about rivers in class. And so it provides that opportunity, that communication chain for teachers to personalize learning, or maybe even give some more ownership and leadership to those students that are capable of doing so to lead their own kind of their learning. So that's that view. And then again, for parents, you'll notice the parents do not have the upload feature. They only have the ability to comment on the work that has been loaded to the student portfolio. I also really love with the upload feature for students is the fact that I would encourage teachers to sort of come up with an expectation or rules for what qualifies as a good post or a good comment on FreshGrade. So for an example here, I do have a little demo of classroom etiquette that, you know, again, you could choose to model in your own class, where it does speak into what makes a good post. So I'm just going to zoom in here so that we can see a little bit better. And of course, now that I'm super zoomed in, it might be hard to find. Perfect, right here. So yeah, this is just a little bit of etiquette. So again, you could have this posted in the portfolio, but yeah, just remember when you're posting something, whether it's a comment or a file, to answer these questions. So this is where we can get into the metacognitive piece of learning and encourage your students to reflect on what their thinking is. So again, what have I done well? What do I need to work on? You know, what's not quite there yet? What are you excited to learn about next? And so, yeah, again, the uglies, even if you're not doing great, they are very important. They show a continued process in your learning. Other pieces that we will dive into for the portfolio when we get into on-sites is more examples of how you can effectively use the portfolio for learning. So today, again, is more about the tools to get started. But another thing that I would even suggest that's really powerful is kind of doing like an A/B time comparison. So maybe at the beginning of the year, you give a student a grade level reading assignment to read out loud, and you record them. And then at the end of the year, after you've done more practice and that student has continued to grow, you give them that same excerpt that you did at the beginning of the year, and then you get them to read it out loud again. And then you have a beautiful comparison between the two to see how that student has grown and improved. And that's really gratifying from parents and students and even the teacher as well. So again, we will be digging more into the tools of the portfolio for sure, and how to be using it to apply for digital learning. But again, I just wanted to share what these specific buttons do for you. Just as another call out for you, you can additionally add comments, or sorry, I'm on Jacob's tab here. So, or no, I'm parent, I'm teacher. So on the teacher tab here, you do have the ability to push anything as an email at any time to your users. That's for sure. So here's where you could share a highlight if you chose afterwards that you did want to send one. You also have the ability to edit any posts that you have. So you can remove a post, you can edit any notes that you may have put in there, and you can also delete as well. So maybe I want to delete Sully. And so Sully is now gone. If I gave a refresh on these pages as well, it would be gone too. An important note when it comes to the portfolios is when Jacob posts, you will know that it is Jacob. It will have a Jacob stamp on it. When the teacher posts, the teacher will have a post. If your collaborator in your class posts, we will see who it is that did that post. So, some teachers are concerned that students might be able to post something, making it look like it was on behalf of the teacher, and that's not the case. Students also have no ability to delete a teacher post, although they do have the ability to delete their own posts that they have uploaded. So there is a little bit of ownership there, which is good. Okay, so I'm just going to jump back to the chat panel because, as I said, I don't have it available for me right in front of me while I'm talking, but I'm just going to take a second to review. Yeah, some privacy questions that Jordan has been handling. Yeah, so Jordan, that's a great call out. So again, as we talk about FreshGrade, and again, uploading students, image and their work and everything else, FreshGrade is a closed platform. So again, the only people that will see Jacob's work, for an example, or Jacob's images are the teacher, anyone that is invited in as a teacher. So, and again, that is locked down because we will only accept SD23 email addresses. And then, of course, Jacob himself, and then Jacob's parents and any other people that are added in as parents. So again, if you post something, even say, for an example, we were talking about that class field trip where maybe you chose to post a photo tagging multiple students, what will happen there is that photo will be shared, obviously, because there will be other students in that class. But if the parent of, say, Missy commented on that photo on Missy's portfolio, there is no way for that to be seen by Jacob's parents or Jacob. So it's very much locked down and closed down. And again, digital citizenship, I mean, the internet, it's a scary and dangerous place, but I would much rather have my child make a mistake in a closed circuit such as this, where the only audience is going to be mom and dad and teacher, to be able to intervene and maybe take that teachable moment and share and educate with them. So again, this is a closed network. We are not sharing this data outward. Okay, excellent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now, unless there's any questions here, thank you. Yeah, thanks, Jill. That's perfect. I'm glad that helps you. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to jump into the grade book, and then hopefully I'll be able to circle back to answer any more questions that you guys might have. But again, keep in mind, if there's something I haven't addressed today, we've got lots of time carved out on the 21st for me to be there in-house with you guys to poke buttons and maybe talk about some more tangible implementation of the app. Today is just to give you a good overview so you're feeling comfortable to go in and start collecting some learning for you guys. Okay, so again, portfolio piece, you can upload video, audio, files, comments, anything that you would like onto the portfolio. And what I would ask is just be intentional with what you're loading up there. Some teachers end up using FreshGrade as a curriculum dump, and there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. But again, what does your district want? What are those expectations? And try to align with them and be intentional again with what you're posting and putting on that student's portfolio, and does it reflect their learning? So again, we've gone ahead and we've done the portfolio. We're now going to jump into the grade book. Okay, so give this guy a second to load here. So my grade book is obviously populated with some items in there already. It's using lots of different assessment tools, and remember we talked about those earlier on in the webinar when we were going through the account settings tab. And so this is how I have all these different assessment tools. And so the cool thing about the portfolio, actually just like the grade book, but because we're running out of time, I won't have a lot of time to play and show you, you can filter. And this is going to be really, really critical for you elementary school teachers, just because you are teaching so many subjects. And you can imagine that, by the end of your school year, your grade book is going to be busting at the seams. So I just wanted to call out that, again, although I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it today, you do have the ability to filter. So right here, I'm just going to scroll in a little bit so you guys can see a little bit better here. And so here we have subjects. And so if I click on this and open, right now I have all subjects ticked. So you can clear this and say, for an example, you just wanted to drill down to your math activities for that year. You can go ahead and tick that. Now, I believe that because my class is just language arts, again, my demo account, this probably won't pull anything, but I am going to show you how this works. So I'm going to go ahead and say, I just want to see mathematics. I expect for my class, because I haven't created any activities in math, that it's actually going to drill down to nothing. So I'm just going to click away. This is how you get this to work. Yes. And so in this case, I was correct. I have no math activities in my portfolio. So what you can do is you can actually save your filter as well. So you could create a filter for math. You could create a filter for science. You could create a filter for PE. And so then what you can do is you can go ahead and click on it. So I'm just going to call this math. I'm going to click save. And so now what I can do is I can go back to my grade book. And so it's just going to take a second to load here. If I ever want to go back and check out my individual subjects, I just go under saved filter. And right here, you'll see there's math. And so if I click on that and go view, it'll actually then just pull it. So you're not actually having to go into the filter tab every time to set up your filters. And then some teachers also ask, when does this come into effect? So even classes that are labeled after, that are created after this filter that are labeled math, they will be pulled into these subjects. So again, that's a very, very quick overview of filtering, but I just wanted to call out that providing that you are organizing your activities, you can then use the filter tool to make this a lot easier, especially for those of you that are teaching all subjects. It's a little bit different for high school and middle school when you sort of have your discrete classes. So I will be digging into this more when we get into our training, quite possibly, but we also do have webinars that go through this in depth and in detail as well. So there's resources to check that out. Okay, I'm just going to jump back to the comments tab here really quickly and make sure that we're all okay. Jill's asking, can we pull directly from BC Ed core competencies or curriculum to populate these? Portfolio follows a student year to year or reset with new teacher in the next school year. So Jill, I might not be fully understanding your question, but we definitely do pull. So we've got the 2015 curriculum into FreshGrade, and I'll show you in just a second how we can create an activity and map those objectives. And hopefully that's going to help address your question. But if not, hopefully I can get to it at the end, or if you can write support@freshgrade.com and they'll definitely get into it more. Okay, most welcome. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and create an activity here. So I'm going to go add activity. And so here I'm going to call this a nonfiction reading assignment. And you know what? I think we're probably going to have a couple of them throughout the year. So I'm going to just go ahead and call this guy nonfiction reading assignment number 1. And so this description box, it is optional, but you know, this is the description that both your parents and students will see if you've also invited them into the portfolio. So the more info you can provide to give guidance and support at home, I would encourage it to. So, you know, this is where I'd say, please complete this assignment by next Thursday. And then you could say, Mom and Dad, if you can help, or Mom and Dad, can you, if you have time, please help Jacob with this assignment, or maybe you don't want him to have help. And so you can call that out explicitly in the description as well. So now categories. If you recall in the account setting tab, I was talking about categories in the past. And so right here, you'll see that mine's more weighted for high school at this point, right? So again, it's weighting and grades, but this is also where you could maybe choose to break it down into those curricular competencies and core competencies and big ideas if you wanted to create it. It's just a tagging feature essentially. And so you know what I'm going to do is I'll even show you, remember it says category here. We can even filter by category in the grade book as well. So again, for high school, this is definitely more of an effective tool, but you can change your categories to reflect multiple things. I would not suggest to replace your subjects here just because your subjects are tracked under the objective tab. So I do see a lot of elementary schools just choose no category. The app won't force you to do that. And again, we're not necessarily assigning a letter grade in elementary school, so we don't need to worry about the weighting per se. There's also a label option here. So when you're labeling it, you know, something that I would almost encourage you to do as well is maybe classify your assignments into terms. Because again, remember what I was saying about your grade book possibly exploding by the end of the year, especially again, being elementary school. If you create labels that help you drill down, that would be very helpful. And again, this is just a sampling of what is in here under the label tab. So if you click edit, you can create anything else, anything as well. So this is where you could even choose to use labels for core competencies. So again, collaboration or whatever it is that you're wanting to use it for. Again, it's a tool and it functions in a specific way, and it's up to you guys to decide how you want to use them if you do it all. And so then just click save. And so now we should see that collaboration label there. So we'll go ahead and just say collaboration. It's color coded. At this point, we can't really control the label colors. It is some feedback that we have had just to provide some meaning behind the color coding that you apply. But right now it's just randomly assigned. Okay, so we've gone ahead and created a title. The date is the date on which it'll be posted into the portfolio. So you could post this forward into the future, but again, it's just a posting display feature. Here's where you can provide a description to your parents and your students for the homework, and again, a category if you choose to assign it. And so this is where we get into objectives. Now, again, providing that you have selected the objectives in the account setting tab, we should see those objectives pull through. And again, in this case, this is a language arts assignment. You can see here how we have many different subjects. So I'm going to go ahead and click show. And so right now we can filter the objectives. So right here, we could choose just to do curricular competencies. We should see the list start to collapse. You can kind of see some action here. So it's still a pretty big list, but if we include all of these, you're going to be scrolling until dinner time. Quite a few more. So again, it helps you to drill down, which is the nice part. So again, as I was saying earlier, the core competencies are in here, but this is again the format that we imported at the beginning of summer. So my understanding is that MyEd has changed things a little bit, but I can confirm that the core competencies are in here in this list, just not organized under a filter of core competency. So I'm just going to select curricular competency to select. And so again, my assignment is a nonfiction reading assignment. And so I'm just going to go ahead and select a couple here. And sorry, that jumped. But again, what I did is right under here, I selected objective, language arts. And this is the one I picked, the curricular competency. Respond to text in personal, creative, and critical ways. Cool thing about this, you can have multiple objectives attached to one assignment, and they can be interdisciplinary as well. So the assignment I'm about to load up here is Galileo and his telescope. So I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to select social studies. I could even probably put this assignment under science if I wanted to as well. But we're going to go ahead and just select another one. Let's go here. Coverage of current events. I'll just select one. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick one at random here. And so you'll see now that this activity is both language arts and social studies. So this is where you can filter by subject, right? So again, keep that in mind there. And so then add resource. And so this is where you can link to your Google Docs. You can use a website. You can upload videos or files or whatever you would like. And so I've got an assignment here that I'm going to upload. And so my resource that I'm going to use is Galileo and his telescope. Perfect. And so I'll just show you guys what that assignment looks like really, really quickly, hopefully quickly. Let's go resources. So this is nice to potentially do a paperless option as well if you would like. Oh, it's not liking that. Okay, we'll just skip that. It's not wanting me to go through there and go to webbing. I'll show you guys that assignment in a second. So anyway, then we go into assessment tools. And so this is what I was talking about earlier, how if you're seeing something in here you don't want to use, again, a score for an example, this is where you would manipulate that on the account settings tab. So in this case, I am going to use a 3-point, I'm going to use a 4-point mastery scale. So not meeting, approaching, meeting, and exceeding expectations. And then the final piece is selecting your students. So this is where you can have your entire class tagged essentially. So what will happen is this assignment will show up on each student's portfolio. Both mom and dad will get a ping that there's homework. Jacob will also get a ping that there is homework to be completed. No more excuse of the dog ate my homework because it's all digitally uploaded and we can use that tool there. Or if you have a split class, for an example, you can actually just select specific students. Right, so for an example here, we'll say that these guys are my grade 6ers, but then I want to go back and create an assignment that's just for my grade 5 class. So it provides that flexibility for individualized learning. Also, if you have students that are on adapted learning plans, this is where you could also select just those students for that customized assignment. So I hope that that's okay with that flow. And again, we can dig into this a little bit more when I'm on site with you guys on the 21st. But I'm going to go ahead for this, and I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to select all. Okay, and so again, we created a name, date, description. We assigned no category for this just because we're not using a weighted scale and percentages. I've decided to call this a collaborative assignment, and I've attached the learning objectives for both language arts and social studies. And I've also got the actual assignment here as well as the assessment and students. Here's a little tip for you. If you're wanting to pre-create all of your activities and not have your students or parents see it, here's the other thing you can do too. You can go ahead and not select any students at all. And so then this will just be sitting in your grade book. This activity will be ready to rock when you're ready to release it. And then all you have to do is come back in and just tag the students and it'll all get populated to the portfolio. So that's another little tip or trick that I can offer you. Okay, and so now all I have to do is click save, and I've just created myself a nonfiction reading assignment activity. So just give it a second here, and while that's doing, oh, perfect, that loaded quick. So here we've got our class list, and here is the assessment as well. So again, we can add a comment, we can post an example of Jacob's work here, incomplete, excused, or we can assess him. And so this is where we can give our students a grade from 1 to 4, really quick and easy. Oops, expanded that guy. Come on. My go-to panel is getting in the way for my assessments here. There we go. So again, you can assess them. If you wanted to attach examples of their work that they've turned in, this is where you can do it. Assess, 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 and then we can mark it as complete. And so now when I hop back into my grade book here, you'll see that we've provided an assessment for your students, and then I'll show you really quickly what that looks like for Jacob as well. At any time, you can change your mark once you've gone ahead and edited it, so you're not locked into a grade that you've provided. And then also notice as well, which is pretty cool, is it gives you a high-level overview of how your students did on that assignment. So again, it gives you an average score, and it just gives you some flags that you may not be able to capture otherwise with a tangible, physical grade book. It kind of does some calculations for you on the fly, which can be nice for intervention, early intervention, and still, whoops, end of the year, and all of a sudden realizing that your student could use some help. So just gonna hop back to the chat panel here and see what's going on. If you guys have any feedback for me. Perfect. Okay, Jill, great. The drill down feature answers your earlier question. Excellent. Okay, it looks like you guys are doing okay so far. And so we're just in the process of getting wrapped up. Okay, Jordan, I see that some people are having a tough time logging in on their iPads. Okay, so this will be something you and I should follow up with support at the end of the day here. And so again, this video will be available, but I'm just going to kind of keep going and finishing up what I need to complete here. Okay, so here's my grade book. Here's my nonfiction reading assignment. And so the final piece that I wanted to show you is what does that look like on Jacob's portfolio now that we have assessed him? And again, this percentage disregard just because this grade book has been used just for demoing. So the calculation might be a little bit silly. But again, there's my assessment in this column that I have created here for the students. And so if I go back now to my portfolio and click on Jacob, we should see this activity loaded. There's a nonfiction reading assignment right there. There is Jacob's assessment. And so we can actually click into this and go more. And here are the tags that we've attached with the descriptor. So this is kind of what the view is. It also provides insight into what the language arts looks like. Yeah, sorry, the objectives that we've selected. So in this case, we have language arts, we have social studies, and this is where we can view the activity or the resources that we put here too. So here's a nonfiction reading assignment with some questions for Jacob at the end. And so again, Jacob's view looks like this, and I'll give a refresh because we got rid of Sully there. And so Jacob and mom and dad should also now see this assignment. So again, there's no hiding behind, oh, I didn't know I had homework. Everyone is looped in on that. And the great part about this is that if mom and dad see that Jacob is having a hard time, again, not having to wait until parent-teacher interview night, we can get that intervention for Jacob, and mom and dad can reach out in those cases, hey, what can we do to help? And this is where we can create this conversation. So I'm just going to show you really quickly how cool this can be for student uploads. And again, I recognize for the very, very young levels, this might not be realistic, but as we start to get into grade levels, I mean, I've got a girlfriend who has a 3-year-old that knows how to use an iPad better than I do. So it sort of just depends on what that comfort level is. So I'm going to go back into Jacob's portfolio here just to show you guys really quickly what this could look like. Okay, and so let's give this a little refresh. It's on Jacob. And I'm actually going to log out, and I'm now going to be Jacob. So just to simulate what this kind of upload can look like for you guys, and it's just kind of a teaser more for what is possible. So this is where, give this a refresh so it's all loaded up. We should see that nonfiction reading assignment come through here in just a second. There it is, nonfiction reading assignment. So now I'm Jacob, and I just completed my homework at home. So this is where, Jacob, this is where if you can help get your students to a point where they can be uploading on their behalf and take the work off of teachers, this is where this will be really helpful. So I'm Jacob, I'm gonna take a photo, I'm gonna post my completed work here. And so sorry, as I'm struggling to get this going, stand up. So there's my completed homework. Not the best lighting. Okay, so that one wasn't great. Let's retake that. There we go. Okay, wobbly hands here. So then I'm going to go ahead and say use photo. And so Jacob can post a comment. Here's my work, and then we can go ahead and say save. So again, for those of you that have just joined us, I am streaming audio and video for this webinar. So the app is a little bit slower to operate here. So as that's processing, we get a photo up and running. And so now that's been posted. And so the teacher doesn't have to have that ownership in the posting. And again, it's a great lesson in digital citizenship. So that is a very, very quick rundown of the use of the app. As I said, we would go until 5. I did want to open up the floor to any questions. And again, this was meant to be introductory, high-level overview. Oh, look, there you go. See, there's a posting right there. I don't know, guys, if you guys can see that, but as the post happens, the push notification goes to the parent and then the teacher. So there's Jacob's work uploaded, and so then the teacher can comment it and assess as well. So that functionality does exist. Great. Another little teaser that I'll show you that's really cool, you guys, just as I've got you here, as I encourage you to start thinking about questions that you can ask me today, or questions that you can ask for feedback for us for the PD coming up on the 21st, is on FreshGrade dashboard right here. Remember, we were talking about objective tracking. This is a really, really powerful tool right here. So under objectives, what you can do is you'll notice we start to track which objectives have been completed. So once you mark an assignment as complete, it will actually show you what objectives have been managed. And so here, all I have are the 2015 curricular outcomes. And so it actually provides a breakdown of what those look like and which ones we have completed as well. So if I scroll, if I break down language arts and I scroll, you'll see here that it's got actually a completion bar of what the grades are that those students have achieved. And it allows for you to have intervention as well. So here, if you had a lot of low students, you could actually go ahead and just select students that maybe need a little more attention and create an additional activity. So these are high-level functions that we can dig into at a later date, but I did just want to call that out just because the objectives are a critical thing, especially with this new curriculum, and how do we track it and how are we accountable for it? So that tool, we'll dig into it more on another day, but I just wanted you to be aware that it is available and it is there. So I'll let you guys just have a second to think about any questions that you might have for us. Okay, so Lindsay's just asking, as an elementary school teacher, she's asking, is it best to put each subject into term? You know what, honestly, I would probably recommend it. So just to show you really quickly what that could look like is if we go back into the grade book, and again, we've created an activity here. So let me just get a second to load. So if I go into my nonfiction reading assignment and I give it a couple tags. So what I want to do is I'm going to edit it. And so I am going to call this one term one, just to kind of show you how this drills down, because yes, you do. You teach language arts in term one, term two, and term three. And so this will just be a quicker pull for you. I mean, it's a little bit more work to tag it, but I think in the end, it's going to be really, really rewarding for you. So I'm going to go ahead and label this one term one. Don't forget to save your changes. Sometimes we have teachers that have put so much effort into their work and then they just back out of the page, and of course it won't be saved, which just makes me feel really sad. So just make sure you're always saving your work as you intend. You can see here that now we have a couple labels attached. They're color coded there. And so if I go into my filter, I can go ahead and pick label, and I can go term one, and then I'll go my subject. Now this assignment was under both, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to say language arts. Wherever the heck it is, there it is. And so now I'm going to pull away and it's going to drill down into the different terms. So it's just thinking here. And so I've got a few assignments actually from term one with language arts. And so yes, for you to drill down further, go ahead and tack that additional label onto it. And so then what you would do here is you'd go ahead and say save filter, and you go language arts, term one. And you go ahead and save. And then you could create an additional filter, language arts term two, and save that filter as well. And so I think that that would just make it a lot easier. Instead of having one filter for language arts, you can drill down even more so, which is really powerful. So just with a little bit of thought and pre-planning, this can be a really, really powerful tool. And the same feature applies in the portfolio as well from the teacher view. You can also filter the portfolio. Great. Yes, absolutely. Brain is full. That is a lot of content to cover, everybody. But again, I wanted to make sure that you were feeling empowered to at least get started. And that's the big thing, right? Is again, write support at freshgrade.com. You've got an amazing support team with Jordan and Graham. I mean, they've just been fantastic advocates for the district. And so, yeah, absolutely, you guys, you're so welcome I just want you to feel supported. And again, we'll get you guys building some really amazing portfolios for your students, because that's ultimately what we're all here about. So I'll just stay on the line here just for another minute, just to make sure that there aren't any other questions that I can address before I let you guys go. It is a couple of minutes early, but I also know that you're all eager to go for dinner and, just enjoy your evenings, that's for sure. Most welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for attending today. For those of you attendees that are still here, as an additional thought, we did actually have a K-3 webinar featured with Siobhan actually at the same time. I just realized that today, 3:30 till 4:30 today, there was a general free webinar with best practices from K-3 grades. So if you missed it and you didn't register, it's not too late to capitalize on that content. So right here, if we go to freshgrade.com, the webinars, I'll just show you how this works. Go into freshgrade.com and then right under here, register for PD. We have a whole bunch of webinars planned for you. So today was best practices from K-3. Tomorrow is 4-8, and then 9-12 on October the 12th. So if you are unable to attend these, I would strongly encourage you guys to just register, because 24 hours after the webinar has been delivered, you will actually receive a recording in your inbox. But the other really cool thing about this as well is you can access historical webinars as well. So we also have an entire bank of August webinars, which could be really helpful for you. But what you can do is that even if the webinar time is passed and you haven't registered, if you click on the link, you can actually go in and register after the fact. So just go ahead and put your name and email. That's all we need. And then you can go ahead and click register, and it will bring you to a recording of the webinar as well. So just give it a second to load. And again, this is Siobhan Nordstrom. She's our support rep. And away it goes. You probably won't be able to hear the audio because I'm not streaming it from GoToMeeting, but I promise you it's there.
By categories.
It's live and it's ready to rock. So that's a huge resource for you to pull from. And again, for pacing wise, it's always great to have a recording because you can press pause, you can rewind. What did she do there? And go back. So jumping back into the questions. Yes, so there is a thing that we have. Oh yes, do you guys want a link for that? I can send it. I will just go ahead and do that right now. I can actually put it in the chat panel. This is a very long URL, but for those of you that are still here, there it is. Oops, that was just to Jordan. Let me change that up. So that's the webinar link for the September webinars. And again, that's right on our website. So right on the website, scroll down to the bottom and it'll take you to this page. So I'll just show you freshgrade.com, scroll down, register for PD, register for today. And so even if you can't attend, I strongly encourage you just register to all of the webinars so that you can get a recording of each and every single one of them. And again, a couple questions for some of the other attendees here. Tomorrow's webinar is very similar. It's a high-level overview, but I'll be trying to speak a little bit more into the specifics of middle school and high school. So again, just a couple little tweaks for the audience there. But yes, they will both be available if you would like to see them both. Thanks, Janelle. You have a great evening as well. Right, I'm just gonna wait just for a couple more minutes. Yeah, absolutely. I just see a couple more attendees still online, so I just wanna make sure that I'm available to answer any questions if there are any more. So I'll just give it another minute before I log off as well. And again, Jordan, most happy, absolutely. It's just great to spend some time with your teachers in SD23. Kathy, most welcome. Thanks for joining us. Okay, and with that, I'm not seeing any other chat questions. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and sign off. And I'm really excited to see everybody at the on-site on the 21st. So again, thanks so much for having me. And I hope this was helpful today. Take care.